Hello, everyone, and welcome to Confectionery Live 2023. My name is Clay Gordon. I'm the technical editor of International Confectionery Magazine. And today I'm very, very happy to introduce two guests. I've got Matthew Chambers of the Chambers Federation, who's connecting today from Kenya, Nairobi, and also Luca Urbano, who's connecting from Colombia. The issue that I want to speak to today when we talk about issues related to sustainability and innovation in this world is that very often the projects related to improving cocoa quality, improving cocoa quantity, come from organizations outside of producing countries who have a top-down approach. What they have is they have an idea of what the business is. They have an idea about values that they want to inculcate into the ecosystem in the producing country. And there is a mismatch sometimes. And I wanted to focus today on two different approaches to addressing the systemic inequalities that are often found in the cocoa supply chain in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as in Colombia. So Matthew, what I'd like to start with you. Can you give us a 30-second introduction to what the Chambers Federation is all about?
Sure. Right. So you've already introduced me. So I'm Matthew Chambers. I chair the Chambers Federation. It's an impact investment and advisory firm. And we work with a blend of philanthropic and private funding, primarily from our own source of funds, as well as public funds. Usually that is USAID, UK aid, GIZ, those types of organizations. And we focused that investment to achieve three core principles. That's environmental conservation, building peace and resilience in communities, and our favorite point, women's economic empowerment. And that's what we're known best for. And we happen to have gotten involved into the cocoa industry as well as the mining industry, and have turned our investments to really focus on value addition and put most of that energy and focus into high-risk environments. So that's Eastern Congo. We do have a hub in Kenya as well, but that's more of a foundation to support activities in Eastern Congo. But we're also expanding our focus and our interest also to Colombia and Peru, where we're trying to build out similar programs, but different context, obviously, than Eastern Congo.
Great. And so, Luca, you are in Colombia at the moment, but I understand you have a background of working in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So can you explain very briefly what Inhabit One is and what it is that you're looking to achieve in Colombia?
Yes, so Inhabit, it's a SAS, it's a normal company established here in Colombia. The objective of Inhabit is to support the new generation of farmers, neo-farmers, neo-campesinos, how we call it here, to have access to land and be able to create value in rural areas. So we create different tools and different strategies to enable farmers to have access to land, access to know-how, access to community, and access to markets. Our focus is at bioregional level. So we value what we call biocultural asset and biocultural value. And so our strategy is apart supporting farmers, is the creation of different biocultural hubs in different areas here in Colombia. And those hubs are centers for the protection, the conservation, and the recognition of biocultural value, and center of training for neo-farmers.
Gotcha. So Matthew, I want to start with you, if I may. The Democratic Republic of Congo has a known problem in the specialty cocoa world, especially, of not being able to do a good job of post-harvest processing. And one of the issues that I see often with NGOs is that's where they think their role ends. If they can improve the quality of cocoa, they've done everything that they need to do. But I think the thing that really struck me about the approach that the Chambers Federation is doing is you're saying, well, no, that's just the start of the process. And there are many other things that we can do in order to improve the lives and livelihoods, not only of individual farmers, but the communities within which those farmers live, and also to be able to provide opportunities for future generations, which are not necessarily being smallholder farmers. So can you talk about, number one, what it is that you're doing in the DRC, not just with respect to cocoa quality, but also the manufacturing of derivative products, and how does that play across, the DRC and your operation in Kenya? Because it seemed to me that they are very, very interconnected.
Right. It's a vertically integrated supply chain that we're currently building that originates from smallholder farmers in the North Kivu and Ituri provinces of Eastern Congo. And while we've been investing in the cocoa sector originally with the FID. In 2018, we built the first chocolate facility, which to date is still manufacturing 3,000 finished chocolate bars a month. But we put a hold on scaling that up because we recognized very quickly challenges within the quality of the cocoa bean, primarily fermentation process. Also that little orange mold that likes to grow between the husk and the nib that makes the chocolate a bit astringent. And so in order to keep working with farmers in the DRC and scale up operations, we're doing twofold. One, we're using Kenya as our base for quality control, any product finishing and packaging. So if you're talking about a caramel inclusion chocolate bar or a peppermint crisp chocolate bar or chocolate coated cashews or something like that, that finished product is being completed here in our 11,000 square foot facility that's being built out as we speak. But the products originate, the raw material, the cocoa products are coming from DRC. So now that ties into the new investment that we, along with USAID, are currently implementing in a roughly 2/3, 1/3 grant to support our local women's cooperative in building a industrial scale cocoa processing unit, which will have an initial intake of 25 metric tons a month of cocoa beans and then produce your chocolate liquor, your cocoa butter, your cocoa powder, your base ingredients, right? All the milling, all of that fun initial step will happen there, then be bulk shipped to our facility in Nairobi, either for distribution to other B2B customers, or then to be manufactured into finished products with our women's group here in Kenya. But the point of bringing that facility to DRC to bring now an industrial scale, the first industrial scale processing in Congo, is to now immediately address that quality issue. We're also, as part of this facility, we'll have a mycotoxin testing lab, a bean grading lab, and we'll be implementing bag and tag traceability, a similar program that we've done in the mining sector. And so we'll be able to, as cocoa is coming in to the facility, we'll be able to provide immediate and direct feedback to the farmers and say, hey, you didn't ferment these cocoa beans properly. If you do, we will pay you 10 to 20 cents more. Right, and then also with our agronomists visiting those farmers, we'll be able to monitor their climate smart, their forest smart practices to ensure that they're remaining good custodians of the national park. Our facility is within Virunga National Park and even powered by Virunga's hydropower facility. And so it's kind of a twofold incentive to ensure that farmers are adhering to the trainings that, as you were mentioning before, international NGOs came in and did this work, but there's no incentive mechanism to now make that a reality. Why should they care to properly ferment their cocoa beans? Why should they care to improve that quality if they're not being paid more? And so that's what this facility does. is to provide that direct feedback to the farmers, pay them above farm gate pricing, upwards of 40 cents per kilo additional, and of course, shorten the length of time between post-harvest and now roasting and milling to also reduce that risk of mold growing in between in the storage stages.
Right. So I'll get back to some of the issues that you mentioned, but I want to segue over. So Luca, from my own experience in Panama and other parts of Latin America, land tenure is a huge issue. I mean, the smallholders may own their land, they may not own their land, they may not know if they own their land or not. In my experience, that was an impediment to investment. I had an organization that wanted to invest in a cocoa farming operation in Panama, and they couldn't. So what is it about the Inhabit approach to working with the farmers that you are working with is unique to the notion of securing the proper registration of the tenure of the land? And tell us, I've given a very, very high level view. Why is that so important to moving forward in Colombia and other parts of Latin America?
Yeah. So like a definition of land tenure, right? You were also asking, and one I like a lot is land tenure is about relationship between people and land, and how local law and custom define that relationship. And that's very interesting, because obviously you have places where there is a landlord that rents the land with a lease agreement to farmers. There is places like, for example, Congo, where there is a chiefdom agreements where the chief allocate lands to farmers according to the size of the family or how much they can farm, and then it takes, depending on 5 or 10% production from the farmers. And normally this has been a very stable system in the past, but now with kind of the entry of different international companies and people also in power that are buying land, they see the potential of land. Chiefs have been selling land. So what, for example, was my experience in Congo with Moringa project? Initially, we were working with farmers that had their own land given by the chief, and we invest a lot in training and seeds and all that, and the things were going very well. And then after 2 years, the land was sold to a politician or to a company, because the land was enough close to the city, also because we want to reduce the transport cost, which is a big issue in Congo, especially when you export. I love to know also from Matthew how he handled the fact of exporting the cacao beans, because we are in the middle of Africa, basically. There is no direct exit from an ocean, and so it's very important because it's a big deterrent for farmers not to have land access to actually invest in land regeneration. If you want farmers to actually invest, like say in trees or things that are long term, they need to have some kind of land sovereignty, which can be through ownership or some other legal framework that gave them some land security. So it's very important also relate to climate change, right? Because if we want to invest in land, in building soil, in planting trees, and not only seasonal plants, we need then to have land security. Like farmers in Congo, we say often they farm cassava, because cassava, if there is a conflict, they can harvest and run away with it, right? Because people are often displaced. War, it's a big also reason for not having people settling in one specific place. For example, in the case of Congo, including Colombia for other reasons, but always reason of war, which are related to land. Always land is always there as an issue. But generally, there are 600 million family farms in the world. About 3 billion people live out of these farms. There is different figures, but they say that about 70-80% of food in the world is produced by small-scale farmers, depending on the definition, and not many of them have land security. So it's a very important topic, and there are examples of, for example, common ways of have land tenure culturally mediated and not law mediated. For example, there are indigenous groups that are able to provide or use a resource in a way where everyone can use this resource in a sustainable way, meaning that the resource is replenished, as it's regenerative and can be used for the next generation, but in a very organized way. As the common. The common is a resource, which can be a land, a source of water, a group of people, and a protocol. But the protocol, which is the law, is culturally mediated. And that has been very strong. I mean, Elinor Ostrom, the Nobel Prize for Economics, has proved that the common way to actually manage resource, it's very much effective. And the tragedy of the common, the idea that if the resource is left to people and people will deprive this resource, is actually untrue. Well, it's true when there is no this protocol, there is no this culture which has created. So that's where we come from. We want to create a legal model which enable common ownership, where there is these four actors, which is land, because we want, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of action in Colombia, but especially in Ecuador, related to how nature can become a subject of rights and not be an object of rights, right? Some rivers have acquired a kind of a subject, they are legal entities in a way, they're a person, right? So they change the paradigm always, because then you cannot deprive a person, right? He has his own rights. But then the problem is, okay, but the river cannot talk. How can she, or can it represent itself? So then we came out with the Ecuador government came out with the idea that like children, when they're very little, they cannot talk, but they still have rights. Who represent that right? Who fights for the right? They are the parents. So there is a common, so there are people which are close to the resource and know the resource that are able to actually protect that resource. Because in our model, we have either the public, the government, which owns land or protects land, but they're very far away from that resource. They don't know really the needs of that resource, or the private sector, which normally, not all of it, is profit-oriented. The third way is the common, which is the mix, basically. So Inhabit, maybe I can talk more about Inhabit token now. I don't know if this is the.
What I want to do is I want to jump back to Matthew very, very quickly and see about the question that Luca asked about, the Democratic Republic of Congo is a landlocked nation, right? And you have made the decision. It's not land. Oh, it's a very, very small. No.
Yeah, just a tiny bit of right. Ocean, but entire Congo River Basin empties out into the Atlantic.
Yeah, I apologize for forgetting that bit of geography. But you're going from where you have quite a logistics challenge to go from where the cocoa is grown, from where you are doing the manufacturing processing into derivatives to get into Kenya to do the finish work that you're talking about. I suppose one of the questions is, why? Why you decided to take, of all the challenges that there were to take on, why that particular logistical challenge? How is it important and key to the long-term goals of what you're trying to do?
Right. Well, so we're a bit of a different organization. We're not looking at profit as our first priority. Most of our impact investing on the continent has been, can we get our money back, right? Never mind profit. And but for Congo, somebody needs to make that first move. Somebody needs to establish that it is possible, and that's exactly what we did with establishing the first bean to bar facility in Goma with DFID. That was exactly what our goal was. Hey, let's show that it can be done. And shortly thereafter, 5 other entrepreneurs said, hey, if they can do it, I'm going to do it too. And now you have multiple small organizations producing chocolate or chocolate products in the East. Fantastic, right? We love to inspire that replication. But Eastern Congo, especially the Kivus, I don't really consider it part of, it's definitely part of Congo, right? I don't want to get myself in trouble with my Congolese colleagues. But it's just as much part of East Africa and has recently joined the East African community as well, formally. And culturally, language-wise, there's so many similarities between your Kivu region where we work and Uganda and Kenya as well, that it's a nice blend. It's not really, a dramatic difference from one end to the other. The facility that we're building in Eastern Congo, that'll be this larger industrial facility. All of our farmers are within about 50 kilometers. At least the initial farmers that will be providing the cocoa for direct processing. But then from this facility to the border of Uganda, it's about a 45-minute drive. And now, who knows how long it might take to cross that border. But in principle, it's like maybe 2 days by truck through Uganda and to our facility in Nairobi. And this is the direction that the raw cocoa is already going, right? So there's already trucks, on a daily basis that are transporting, thousands of tons of cocoa beans out every year. We're just, eliminating a little bit of that carbon footprint by doing and starting that processing closer to its source, and reducing the total volume weight that's having to be taken out by road. So for us, it's taking what's kind of already there, connecting a few dots. Even the roads that connect both in Rwanda as well as Uganda, the roads that lead up to the border of Congo are usually very nice. I won't get into why or who has funded that or why they funded that, but there is a lot of natural resources that are coming from Eastern Congo. That's why there's so much conflict primarily. And so, of course, you need good roads to transport that if you are a neighboring country. But yeah, that's, to me, it's not really anything terribly new.
Right. So Luca, I know I was at a Concordia conference in New York during the UN General Assembly several years ago, and the Colombian president at the time was talking about the need for transportation security as part of the overall. If I'm a smallholder farmer and I can't get my product to market, why am I farming, right? So the ability to have good roads is really, really important as a part of all of this. But you were talking earlier about the common and how the common can act on behalf of, as a representative of something, for example, like a river. But we talk about the technology of the Inhabit token, and I'm so number one, what is an Inhabit token? What do you plan to do with that Inhabit token? What is it? How does it match to the land sovereignty and the land tenure issues that you're talking about, and how it addresses them?
Yeah. Just to finish with that about the transport or experience in Congo, we are by the Lake Tanganyika, which has borders with other 3 countries: Tanzania, Zambia, Burundi, and for us was a drawback at the time because we're still producing, or we stopped to export 1 ton of moringa, so it's not like normally a large producer will go 10 to 20 tons, something like that. So we are a medium size, but we were exporting. We were having clients in Germany, in France, etc. But our price of transport was $4 or $5 a kilo, and the Indian moringa coming to Europe was $1. So, and the moringa was much cheaper than that. So no competition. But I understand that if the quantities are bigger, and if you're able also to have a better access to roads, like you have like in Kivu, then things are much easier. That's why, and yes, apologize for the error. In fact, Eastern Congo is not having access to the ocean, but Congo, yes, it has an access to through Matadi, right? So getting back to the token. So what the token wants to do, the token it's basically a tool. It's a technological tool that's enable what we call fractional ownership. So you're able to buy a land and put the rights, certain right of the land to tokenize those rights. And those right enters the ecosystem you wish to, which is the Inhabit token ecosystem. How does that work? Is that there is a foundation that buys the land. It gives the rights, the patrimonial rights and some other rights. It allocates them to a trust, and the trust represents the rights of the token holders, which it's all mediated through technology, right? So there is a blockchain which effectively allocated, and there is a smart contract encrypted in the token, which says the land's vocation will change perpetually, right of nature. The administrator, which are the farmers, will have an indefinite land usage if provided they cope with the regeneration of the land and other aspects of agroecology, etc. And the token holders have kind of economical right. It means if the land raises in value, then they're able to sell the token for a higher price. So that's how we manage a common, because there will be different layers, and one of the layers is the governance of the actual common, which is made where the people that are closer to the common, which are the farmers or the administrators or the guardian of that lands, because it could be a conservation area, have the most rights. And if there are investors that also start to be involved in the project, they start acquiring governance rights. So that's how we mediate it. But one of the most important facts is that once the land enters that system, even though an investor or token holders has 100% of the core token, he will not or she will not be able to change these agreements, and the land will never be able to be sold outside that system. So it gives a land protection much higher than other land protection systems. So yeah, this is the legal framework.
Okay, so unfortunately, I think that we've seen a couple of layers of overlap between the work that you're doing in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the work that you're doing in Colombia. Matthew, you said the Chambers Federation is looking at Colombia and Ecuador as places to go, and obviously, I'm thinking about the Inhabit token ecosystem and how it could be applied for NGOs like the Chambers Federation to be able to take large blocks of land, put them into trust, and therefore feel secure in the notion that the work that it was doing would inure not only to the land, but to the people who inhabited the land, and not necessarily, to some very large company who would go, okay, I've now seen the value of my investment double or triple. Therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit this investment. Right. And the person who is taking on the investment after me may not feel the same responsibilities that I feel to the land and to the people who are on it. And as I said, I think, unfortunately, we're at the end of the time that we've been allocated today to do this. And I think we've really started getting to some really, really interesting areas of overlap about how the two different approaches your organizations are taking very, very much complement each other. But I think that really, really importantly here, the point I want to make is that these ideas come from deeply rooted experience in producing countries, working with smallholder farmers, working with the communities those smallholder farmers live in, and understanding what the true needs of those communities are, not just some impression that we have as privileged people in consuming and manufacturing countries saying, oh, this is our solution, right, to the way these people need to change their lives, right, in order to be able to improve their lives. And with that, I want to say thank you, everyone, for watching through this entire presentation, and to stay tuned for other presentations and panels during Confectionery Live 2023. My name is Clay Gordon. It's been my pleasure to host Matthew Chambers of the Chambers Federation, Luca Urbano of Inhabit, and hear about their work on two different parts of the world that turn out to be surprisingly similar in really, really important ways. And with that, ciao, everyone.
Thank you very much, Clay.
Thank you, Clay. Thank you, Luca.